Hello and welcome to the next episode of Forward Finance, the podcast where we navigate the digital age of finance. Today I have with me Wim and Martijn, and we will be discussing the Chief Value Officer. And this is something that the gentleman will be going to say during the episode.
So the personal approach, I think, was very nice, and also the reverse. Whereas, okay, let's put the mission of this organization first, and then let me be the guy in our management team that takes care of financing that mission, because that's my role instead of putting the finances first, to say so. Finance as a resource instead of an ultimate goal.
All right, so the Chief Value Officer. It's a phrase that we've been hearing more and more lately in the business. You guys know everything about it, of course, so I will give you the introduction. Please tell me something about yourself, and then we can get on with the show. Wim, why don't you start?
Okay, yeah. My name is Wim Heuvelman. Been working for Finext and helping financials to take a more proactive and evaluating role in their organizations for the last more than 20 years. And I think the Chief Value Officer trend, as we see it, is a nice and new development. Yeah.
All right. Martijn?
So, I'm Martijn Meuling, working for Finext almost 20 years now, being in the same environment as Wim, helping our customers get their finance in order and making impact on future developments in their company.
All right. So I hear that we have a lot of experience at the table today. I said the Chief Value Officer was a phrase that has been coined more lately. Is this something that you guys already see in the past for years now, and just now we are only putting a label on it? Or is this something that has been there already for some time now?
If you look back, I think that 15 years ago, there was a lot of talk about value-based management, which sounds a bit the same, but I think it's quite different. Value-based management at its core was about thinking as a shareholder, including the cost of capital in all your decisions and that kind of stuff. SVA analysis for the listeners or viewers that are still familiar with that terminology. We build a lot of models and reports around shareholder value analysis, but that's exactly what it was. It was thinking from one stakeholder perspective, the shareholder, and bringing that more and more into your organization. And I think what with the Chief Value Officer approach or a trend that we see the last years is something that maybe is not so new, because I think every good CFO always knew there is much more than just finance and the numbers, of course. But I think it's nice that it now has a new label, because thinking about all these other aspects in your business is something that's really valuable, and also a great opportunity for finance professionals.
Right. And when you say all other aspects, what kind of aspects are you referring to then?
Yeah, well, what you typically see is that it's about all the different stakeholders of your organization. So it's about your employees. How do we treat them? But also your suppliers. How do we treat our suppliers? How do the suppliers treat their employees? But also how do they incorporate environmental impact they have in their processes. It's about customers, and it's about also society as a whole. So what is the impact we can bring? I think for a classic CFO, maybe an organization was a means to generate an income for shareholders, whereas a Chief Value Officer is more focused on what is the mission of our organization, and the financing is a resource to realize that mission. So it's quite a different approach, and I think it's it's a very good development for financials that really want to have impact in their organizations.
If I were to summarize this, I would say you're moving away from shareholder value and moving towards stakeholder value, maybe.
Yeah, that's what happens. So it's a more broadened focus that you have. And that's the real trend behind it. Yeah. True. Yeah.
Right. So recently we've been to an event, the Future of Corporate Reporting.
Our own event.
Our own event, yes. And we had one of the speakers there was the Chief Value Officer from Stedin.
Danny Benima.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
What are your main takeaways from what he was saying there?
Well, something that triggered me was the fact that he says that, first of all, his personal development, his own point of view, that he said that like I have to make impact myself, so it's a more personal journey. That was a great takeaway. The other one was that the fact that he said that if you have the influence, you have the how do you say it, responsibility as well. So if you're in a position where you can have the influence to change your company or the role within your company, then he says you have the responsibility as well to do so. So that's something that really struck me personally.
Yeah.
How about you, Wim?
Yeah, I think I was also struck by the fact that he made it, first of all, very... because this is typically such a 3-letter acronym and you can make it very... sound business-like. Yeah. Probably we have somewhere like a 2x2 metrics to explain all the trends behind it, etc. But what struck me there was a very personal story. It was about his personal development, and that led to also this change. So I think that's important, or that's. And I noticed that he had a background at a listed company, and he also his personal change or his development led to the new position he was in, and also coining his role as a chief value officer instead of a chief financial officer. Yeah. So the personal approach, I think, was very nice, and also the reverse. Whereas, okay, let's put the mission of this organization first, and then let me be the guy in our management team that takes care of financing that mission, because that's my role, instead of putting the finances first, to say so. Finance as a resource instead of an ultimate goal.
So basically, you're as a CVO, you're broadening the impact that you have at the table of the directors, basically.
I think that's where the opportunity for financials lie. It's our mission at Finext to really, as we put it, have power to the next generation of financials. And I think this next generation of financials is not just focused at finance anymore, because if you want to have an impact at a management table, this is a great development, and it's a great challenge to pick it up. If you limit yourself to just the finances, I think your influence will also be less. So
I mean, it's. I can imagine that it's inevitable. So the role has to be picked up by somebody.
By somebody, yeah. So exactly. I think it's a trend, and it's something that is about to happen everywhere. So if you want to be in a position and you want to create impact, have impact, and you're in finance, you happen to be in finance, then you should adopt it, because otherwise your role will be limited, and you even in some future obviously will even be obsolete, because it will be automated or whatever, and then
So is this basically this evolvement of the trend? Is this basically an extension of the marginalizing of finance as we see today? So the role of the financial becomes smaller and smaller due to automation and better organized processes. Is then the extension of going from a traditional CFO towards a CVO, is that a natural occurrence then? Or Is there something else at play here?
It's a tricky question. I'm not sure if there's something else, but I think that you should, if you are in finance and that's your core focus, then you should adopt it, because otherwise you will be obsolete, or you will be you will be less impactful. So and the trend as itself, it will be there. So then somebody else will pick it up. And of course, if you are the kind of financial that isn't used to that, or it's challenging for a lot of financials in their roles, because they've been used to being the custodian and managing the compliance and being a little bit reactive, not being the guy who has the great vision, or the girl who has the trends and everything in mind. They always are most of them are reacting instead of acting, and that's the real big change that is going to be. You have to take it, because otherwise you can't be a chief value officer. Sorry.
Yeah. So looking at, you mentioned compliance, and that's something which is triggering me, of course, because we all know that the CSRD is coming up, and companies are going to have to comply. So do you guys see this upcoming new compliance rule set as a flywheel, as it were, in order to elevate financials towards this new position? Or is it something that they will just get a checkbox of the auditor and be done with it?
I think it depends on how you approach things like CSRD, and CSRD is one of the many new regulations flying around, because I learn new abbreviations every week. Like then we have
a new taxonomy,
new taxonomies, rules, etc. But I think if you take a strict compliance view to CSRD, okay, this is something we have to do, and you don't see the strategic value, then I say, okay, then I think the CSRD can easily be handled by somebody that is more strictly focusing on, okay, I'm the chief financial officer there. But with somebody that has the ambition to broaden their scope, to broaden their influence, also on the management table, that really wants to be there, the next generation financial with more impact, and they really want to become the chief value officer, then the CSRD is a nice opportunity, because to be able to report in these kind of new legislation and frameworks, we need skills from people in the organization that typically finance has. The finance office knows all about data collection, making sure that the processes are set up so that we can really, that an auditor can give assurance on that, etc., etc., etc. So that's why in a lot of customers, I now see a department called non-financial reporting arise somewhere in the finance department. And I think it's kind of funny that we call it non-financial reporting, so that's maybe we could have... I would challenge the listeners of this podcast to comment somewhere, okay, what should be a better name than non-financial reporting, because it clearly indicates that we are still focusing on finance, and there is some other stuff. I think, as long as if you call everything that's not there's no euro or dollar sign non-financials, then you are not really value focused, I think. But there is a lot of development going around there, and as Martijn said, if finance is not picking up
somebody else
will. And then somebody else at that management table will have a bigger say and will have more influence. And typically, I think that's not the position that you want to be in as a finance person, because you are there to make a difference, aren't you? You want to be co-steering your organization. So then do this.
I think it's an important step in order to not be marginalized. And you're not. The CFO was traditionally the number 2 in the company, next to the CEO, or even the shared number 1. It depends on your perspective. But if you don't, you're basically going to lose that position, is what you say.
Let there be no mistake about it. Of course, getting your financials in order is the basis. Nobody is going to listen to your ambitions as a chief value officer and all the big things when your books are not right, when your auditor is not signing off. So I think to be able to become a chief value officer and to really take the position on the table, you need to have the basics in place.
Yeah.
But if you're only fixing the basics, that's
also the kind of customers we would like to help. Keep helping them. So it's not that we are only focusing on the value part of it, of their business.
Yeah.
Of course, we really like to help them with that, of course. But if the basics are not there, we, of course, will help you create those basics, but only if it's mandatory for your growth and the next level you want to reach. So if you only want to have your basics fixed and you don't have any ambition of becoming a more value-based officer, or customer value. Sure. All
Luckily
those values,
yeah.
But a lot of values. But so if there's no ambition there, well, we will help you, but reluctantly. Yeah.
So you mentioned getting the basics in order. I can imagine that that's easier said than done. So nowadays we see a lot of involvement in technology by allowing these kinds of processes better and better. How do you guys view this particular part of the improvement of the company?
Well, we are a strong believer to bring power to the next generation of financials, or to empower them. Technology is a very strong enabler, and of course, in every meeting that I'm in these days, every customer I speak to, we have to mention AI. So now we have mentioned AI as well. Okay, great.
Check in the box.
Yeah, check in the box. Done the AI thing again. But we know the technology is accelerating more and more and more. So to get the basics in place, technology has always been a strong enabler.
Yeah.
But if you financials that really want to step up and be the real value officers of their organization, they are confronted with a bit more complexity, because you will be collecting information, reporting, making analysis, all that stuff on much more aspects than the typical finance data set that we have, where we always included a set of non-financial KPIs in our reporting, blah, 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 blah. We all did it nice and neatly. But now we will have to include more of that. And maybe some of that is also a bit softer, to say so. So it's not so black and white. It's not so absolute. It's more about, it's more like seeing the trend, and not so much about being perfectly right. So that kind of handling of information, etc., can be quite complex. But luckily for us, new technology is there to help you to really empower you as a chief value officer. And I also see that a lot of the technology parties we work with are also moving in that direction. So they are trying to broaden their scope, and also trying to offer, for instance, better front ends, to incorporate non-financial audiences also into these kind of processes.
Yeah, you also see that the fact that it's broadening, so it's cross-functional within organizations. So there's a lot of more integrations that's needed, and also a lot more types of users that are in the same systems. So you really need to change the perspective of those systems to get other people to work with them as well. And then you can have more impact, of course, because you're connecting a lot of silos together within one organization, or even outside of your organization. So.
And I mean, only the organizational change that is required in order to get to these processes is going to be quite a challenge.
It's
I can
really
imagine.
a challenge, yeah.
So suppose I am a CFO and I'm very good at counting my beans, but I'm looking forward to evolving my role towards a CVO. What are the first things that come to mind that you would advise towards your CVO?
Well, you said something crucial. I have the basics in place. Well, I think that's first and foremost, make sure your basics are still, because if something in the basics is wrong, you will always be thrown back at that level, to say so.
It's the weakest link in the chain, basically.
Yeah.
Yes.
So make sure that your basic processes are in order. Accounting is efficient and running smoothly. Reporting is all there. You've got the right finance staff to monitor that, and that you have got up-to-date technology, which will help you to, more and more focus on, where you can make the difference instead of just running these processes. So make sure you fix the basics and you have that at a proper level. Then I think the things like CSRD is take a proactive stand to that. There's an opportunity, and I think the skill set of a financial is in great demand there, because the auditor will audit all your CSRD reports, and the CSRD will bring you a very broad scope of information you have to gather, report upon, etc., etc., etc. But don't stop at compliance. Think or set up a process where you embed it in the management process of your organization. So if you just do CSRD for compliance, it's nice, but if you really have the ambition to broaden your scope at the management table, be a real chief value officer, take a more embed the data set you will need for CSRD anyway, embed that in your management processes, and also embed it in the dashboards you use for management reviews, etc., etc., etc.
It's almost a missed opportunity if you don't. You've done all this work in order to get this whole CSRD thing running, and then at the very last step, where you can really make the impact, that's where you stop. That sounds like a waste.
Yeah. I think for a financial that wants to have more impact, it is a waste, because you have to do it anyway. So if you just do it from a compliance perspective, take it one step further. And I think if you set up the data collection, if you do it in a more scalable way, and also that you can use it to steer this within your company, there are much more opportunities there.
Yeah. But I also think that Wim already mentioned it a few times, the skill set of the financial.
Yeah.
So the more data number side of a general financial, I think the skill set needs to be broadened as well. Because you need to be some sort of a change maker within an organization. You need to tell the story why we are doing this. You need to get people behind you to come with you and be more of a leader within your company, instead of being the guy or girl who counts the beans. So that's also a mind shift, and you need to focus on that as well. So, and that's, well, the data side, the technology side, of course, challenging, but I think the more personal side of it is also very challenging for most current financials, because you need to change your way of working and the way you stand in life and do things. So that's quite challenging, I think so.
Yeah. And maybe when I think of it, you mentioned Danny.
Yeah.
I think maybe if you are as a financial now thinking about, okay, yes, this is a step I would like to make. People have done this before, so I got a strong feeling, because these people have made this step from also their personal motivations. I know that they are more than willing to share their experiences with you. So, and I can imagine it's a bit like uncharted territory for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So join something like the event we had, and we will host more events the rest of the year, where you can network with these people, where you can hear their stories, and also listen what was difficult and what they did not yet achieve. Reach out to the people that already made this change or are moving in that direction, to actually say so, because I don't think it's something that you plan and just finish.
You can't just aspire to be just like that one person you have on social media and think, well, that he sounds like a very successful person.
No, that's not how it works.
That's not how it works. No. There's a lot of failure and trying, and basically everybody made this journey.
And that's not a straight line also. So it's a journey you have to take, and it starts with your personal motivation. And if you don't really want it, then you can always find 10 excuses not to do it.
Yeah,
yes.
Because there are always basics to be optimized and fixed.
Yeah, of course, you can keep on optimizing, but at a certain moment you have to make the jump and walk towards it.
Or accept, okay, so the basics are in order now. Of course, we can always tweak something there, but now it's time to
so it comes from your personal ambition and motivation. If you don't have that ambition, it will never happen.
But then what is very important then, I think, jumping onto that particular point, is that if your company has, for example, shareholders that are limited towards the short term, that's going to be an impediment for your growth.
It can be. I think that's also things I sometimes hear from customers that are moving in this direction. Sometimes they even changed companies. They say, okay, I was working for this listed company, and we just couldn't get this message abroad. But from their personal motivation, they changed jobs. They changed to an organization where there was a shareholder or a group of shareholders that gave them more opportunity also for this step in their personal development. And people are sometimes surprised. They may think, okay, but private equity is not into these kind of developments. Well, you might be surprised that typically a lot of private equity funds are focusing on really value creation because they really have long-term strategies. And so typically where we see private equity operating, or a typical kind of private equity, they are focusing much more on really long-term, and they really will support this kind of development. But of course, also, for instance, more family-owned businesses, large family-owned businesses, where these people really think in generations.
Yeah.
So, and that's nice, because if you want to become a chief value officer, then that will help you, because you are also really thinking about the long term.
Yeah, you're probably not doing it for the current generation. You're doing it for a future generation.
Yeah.
So, and if you're working at a company or an organization that doesn't fulfill your ambitions, or you don't think there's light on the back of the horizon, change companies, because your life is too short to be working in a role in a company that doesn't fit your personal drive and ambition. Change companies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you only live once, right?
Right.
So,
life is too short for that.
Yeah.
No,
so
you can totally
change your company or change company.
Right. Yeah.
That's why we are there for 20 years already.
Yes.
Yeah, so we didn't change company, but we changed our company.
Yeah, you can do it yourself then.
We reinvent it every year, so much years.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's always important to get in contact with your shareholders, or, well, if you're listed, that comes maybe a bigger price. But if you're, for example, in a private equity company and you think of them as a short-term oriented player, you could approach them with this idea and say, look, this is the way that we want to go forward, and we might be in your portfolio for the short term, but if we can go with this value creation, it might be in benefit for you as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and most of course they all have their multiples and things, but I think that there are quite reasonable people as well, because they have kids too, and they have a long-term vision for other things as well, because they're trying to make the money to do something else. Right. So I think that you might be surprised. Yeah.
Right. So I think that's quite an actually interesting idea to wrap up this particular episode.
Mm-hmm.
You might be surprised and get in touch.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts that you guys have regarding the Chief Value Officer as we stand today?
I think that trend is a great opportunity for financials that really want to make the impact. So if you as a financial want to be more impactful, if you want to make that next step, just go for it and pick it up. And luckily for you, there is some backwind from the legislation side in the form of CSRD and all the other legislations going around. So times could never have been better. Technology is there to help you. Legislation is there to give you backwind. If you have the motivation, time is now. Yeah.
The time is now.
Time is now. Grab this opportunity. Yeah.
All right. Thanks a lot, Wim. Thanks a lot, Martijn, for your participation. Thanks a lot, listeners, and we'll see you in the next episode.